got a what's happening here?
George.
George. We got Tyler.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
We're going to go to Gallagher first.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
From Wisconsin. Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate the gentleman from California, Mr. Kevin McCarthy, for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized. The gentleman is recognized.
Let's all take a second, take a look around. I know people are getting frustrated. Take a look at this chamber and realize how lucky we are to serve this country in Congress. How lucky we all are, Democrats and Republicans, to be citizens of the greatest country in the history of the world. He's definitely out of order, Madam Clerk. I say that because I know last night people were frustrated. They wanted to go to parties. They wanted to take pictures with their families. But honestly, we find ourselves here in this chamber for the second day, and we know we got work to do, but in some ways, there's no place I'd rather be. With the possible exception of Lambeau Field on Sunday, no place I'd rather be. But maybe with the excitement, some of you hadn't had an opportunity to check what's happening online, let me fill you in, or what's happening on Twitter, what the press is writing about. In some ways, they're salivating. There's headlines about the chaos, this and that. Yesterday, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle were tweeting their bags of popcorn that they had out. They love it. The schadenfreude is palpable. But I think my friends on the Democratic side misunderstand what's happening here. Sure, it looks messy, but democracy is messy. Democracy is messy by design. By design. And that's a feature, not a bug of our system. We air it all out in the open for the American people to see. Because at the end of the day, the president's not in charge, the Supreme Court's not in charge, the Speaker of the House is not even in charge. The American people are in charge. And I'm proud to be part of a party that welcomes debate, that invites different views, that isn't afraid of that. Now, I listened to some of my colleagues yesterday. Mr. Roy from Texas, my good friend, he knows I respect his views. I have been his partner in anti-proxy voting crusades, pro-regular order crusades. I understand. I know that his intentions are pure. I know a lot of people are just frustrated with the way Congress works. But, and Chip, you know I believe that in my bones, nobody has done more to lay out a plan for how we restore the basic functioning of this institution than Kevin McCarthy. Nobody. Nobody has done that. Now, you may not have gotten everything you wanted. There are things I want that I know it's just not possible to get done in this Congress. But Mr. McCarthy has gone above and beyond in terms of listening to people with concerns and laying out a plan for how we restore the basic functioning of the House of Representatives. Furthermore, I believe no one has done more to bring us into the majority than Kevin McCarthy. Listen, I wish we had a bigger majority, right? I wish we could do everything over the next 2 years, but the American people gave us an opportunity. They gave us, Republicans, an opportunity to inject some basic common sense into the federal government, to pull the emergency brake on a lot of the crazy we've seen in the last few years. They're asking us to do a job, and nobody has laid out a plan, a proactive policy agenda for the direction we want to take this country in more detail than Kevin McCarthy. You all had an opportunity to provide input into that plan. And the irony of this current moment and this debate we're having is that on the big stuff we all agree, right? We want to secure the border. We don't want the executive branch to do everything through a pen and a phone. We want to work with our Democratic colleagues when it comes to standing up to our enemies abroad, right? There are basic things we know we need to do. It is time to get to work. So, you might tweet out some more popcorn emojis, I get it. You might write your headlines, but what I see right now is energy. A tremendous amount of energy in this Republican caucus who want to do the work of the people. Mr. McCarthy is not asking you to endorse business as usual in the House. He's laid out a plan to renew the House of Representatives and once again make it an institution that we can credibly look ourselves in the mirror and say, we are working in the people's house. For that and many other reasons, I nominate Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of this House.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Clerk, make no mistake, there is no frustration on our side. We are focused on serving the American people. In order to do that, we have to unite behind a speaker. And Democrats are united behind a speaker who prioritizes putting better-paying jobs in industries of the future. Growing up in a working-class family, he knows that a good-paying job and a good education are key to economic mobility. He knows that to tackle the affordability crisis in this country, we need to make sure that everybody gets paid enough to live and work in any zip code. And he knows that by creating these jobs, we can once again make it in America. Madam Clerk, as chair of the Democratic caucus, I am directed by that vote of the caucus to present for election to the 118th Congress the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, Representative-elect for the state of New York, for the office of Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
I seek to place a nomination for Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized.
Yesterday, my first vote for Speaker of the House was for Byron Donalds. Today, I'm rising to nominate Byron Donalds for Speaker of the House of Representatives. Byron is a dear friend, a solid conservative, but most importantly, a family man who loves dearly his wife Erica, his 3 children, has a proven track record as a businessman, public service in the Florida legislature, and now as a member of the United States Congress. Now, here we are. And for the first time in history, there have been 2 black Americans placed into the nomination for Speaker of the House. However, Madam Speaker, order. Madam Clerk, order. We do not seek to judge people by the color of their skin, but rather the content of their character. Byron Donalds Byron Donalds is a good man raised by a single mom who moved past adversity, became a Christian man at the age of 21, and has devoted his life to advancing the cause for his family and for this country. And he has done it admirably. But there's an important reason for nominating Byron, and that is this country needs a change. This country needs leadership that does not reflect this city, this town that is badly broken. The House of Representatives is the people's house. It represents the entirety of our country, and we each represent some 750,000 people. And we come here, and here we sit in a room filled with those representatives. And my friend, Mr. Gallagher, and he is my friend, and I agree with him on many things. And I agree with almost everything that you were talking about. But we should be in here having this kind of a conversation with this many people in the room about Ukraine. And we should debate the merits, and we should debate the ups and downs of being involved. We should debate the $45 billion. We should debate whether it should be more or less. We should debate whether it should be paid for. We should debate what the result we should demand. The only way you're going to get that is if you change the rules and have the leadership to advance the rules to make sure that we can do that. Now, we've had a conversation for 2 months to try to advance the ball, and we have had success in doing that. But we're not there. We're not at the place where we need to be to guarantee that we're going to be able to stand up in the face of the swamp that continues to step over the American people on a daily basis and spend money we don't have, and to continue to leave our borders open, and to continue to fund bureaucrats that are stepping over the freedoms of the American people. Byron will stand up and do that. Byron has a track record of doing that. And importantly, when we're sitting here today and we continue this debate and we then have a vote, I just ask my friends on this side of the aisle, do you think that the American people support the status quo? Yes or no? Do you think that the American people want us to continue down the road of what we've been doing? Do they want us to continue to do the things since the leadership that's currently in place have been in place? Do you think they want us to continue down that path? And the argument that I would make is that they want a new face, new vision, new leadership, and I believe that face, vision, and new leadership is Byron Donalds, and I'm proud to put his name into nomination, and I yield back.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Ready? Yep.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amodei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Donalds. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Donalds. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Donalds. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Burkeen. Donalds. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Budzinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez de Reamer. McCarthy. Shearfillis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Ciscomani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. Donalds. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Donalds. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Donalds. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. De la Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Donalds. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezel. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Feenstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. Ferguson. McCarthy. Feenstad. McCarthy. Fischbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Donalds. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Donalds. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Donalds. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia, McCarthy. Griffith, McCarthy. Grijalva, Jeffries. Grothman, McCarthy. Guest, McCarthy. Guthrie, McCarthy. Hageman, McCarthy. Harder of California, Jeffries. Harris, Donalds. Harshbarger, McCarthy. Hayes, Jeffries. Hearn, McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana, McCarthy. Higgins of New York, Jeffries. Hill, McCarthy. Himes, Jeffries. Henson, McCarthy. Horsford, Jeffries. Houchin, McCarthy. Houlihan, Jeffries. Hoyer, Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon, Jeffries. Hudson, McCarthy. Huffman, Jeffries. Huizenga, McCarthy. Hunt, McCarthy. Issa, McCarthy. Ivy, Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois, Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina, Jeffries. Jackson of Texas, McCarthy. Jackson Lee, Jeffries. Jacobs, Jeffries. James, McCarthy. Jayapal, Jeffries. Jeffries, Jeffries. Johnson of Georgia, Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana, McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio, McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota, McCarthy. Jordan, Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio, McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania, McCarthy. Cam Lager Dove, Jeffries. Captor, Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey, McCarthy. Keating, Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois, Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLota. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler.
Until the last vote, the Honorable Kevin
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Donalds. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Mang. Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Donalds. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. Mills. McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Neguse. Jeffries. Nails. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Donalds. None of Iowa. McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. Donalds. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pepys. Jeffries. Pascrell. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Donalds. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Donalds. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. Donalds. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Schneider. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Schweikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Donalds. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson, McCarthy. Slatkin, Jeffries. Smith of Missouri, McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska, McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey, McCarthy. Smith of Washington, Jeffries. Smucker, McCarthy. Sorensen, Jeffries. Soto, Jeffries. Spanberger, Jeffries. Sparks, Sparks. Stansbury, Jeffries. Stanton, Jeffries. Stauber, McCarthy. Steele, McCarthy. Stefanik, McCarthy. Stile, McCarthy. Stube, McCarthy. Stevens, Jeffries. Stewart, McCarthy. Strickland, Jeffries. Strong, McCarthy. Swalwell, Jeffries. Sykes, Jeffries. Takano, Jeffries. Tenney, McCarthy. Tanadar, Jeffries. Thompson of California, Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi, Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania, McCarthy. Tiffany, McCarthy. Timmons, McCarthy. Titus, Jeffries. Talib, Jeffries. Takuda, Jeffries. Tonko, Jeffries. Torres of California, Jeffries. Torres of New York, Jeffries. Trahan, Jeffries. Trone, Jeffries. Turner, McCarthy. Underwood, Jeffries. Valadeo, McCarthy. Van Drew, McCarthy. Van Dyne, McCarthy. Van Orden, McCarthy. Vargas, Jeffries. Vasquez, Jeffries. Vesey, Jeffries. Velasquez, Jeffries. Wagner, McCarthy. Wahlberg, McCarthy. Waltz, McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz, Jeffries. Waters, Jeffries. Watson Coleman, Jeffries. Weber of Texas, McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yacom. McCarthy. Zinke. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Center, but now she's being blocked and not making it available.
Sparts.
Present?
Present.
Will the House order? Will the House be in order? The tellers agree in their tallies
You don't have a mic on.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 433, of which the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 201. The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 20. With one member-elect recorded as present. No member-elect having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast, a speaker has not been elected. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
Now, why would I, as a conservative, as an Army Ranger, business guy, the first guy that the House Freedom Caucus backed in a congressional race, why would I nominate Kevin McCarthy to become the next Speaker of the House? Why would Jim Jordan? Why would other conservatives like Thomas Massey, Jim Banks, Kevin Hern, and others support Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House? You know, something in our nature as humans causes us to dehumanize others when we engage in conflict. Dehumanizing others makes it easier to ascribe bad motives and to engage in the fight. But it also makes it harder to understand one another. As actions push further disagreement, arguments tend to escalate rather than resolve. We're on the precipice of such a destructive argument today. I plead with all of my Republican colleagues, let cooler, more rational heads prevail. Let us unite as Republicans to elect the next Speaker of the House. Unlike Democrats, nearly every Republican at least campaigns on some form of smaller, more accountable government. Once we get here, the bipartisan consensus keeps growing a bigger, less accountable government. The American people know that the status quo is broken, that we've become less free, less safe, and more burdened by debt. The American people are sick and tired of it, and they keep sending us reinforcements that today help make up our small majority. But a majority is only a majority if we actually work together. Now, lots of people back home don't trust anyone in this town. Perhaps we would be wise to listen to them and some wisdom from Ronald Reagan. Trust, but verify. Trust is a fragile condition and easily broken. As I've listened to my friends, 20 of whom have opposed Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, and others. The root issue is this: they do not trust Kevin McCarthy. What can heal that divide? Right now, there are a lot of colleagues that don't trust 20 or more of my fellow Republicans. Right now, though we remain divided, an actual majority of the House Freedom Caucus members do support Kevin McCarthy. This summer, a unified House Freedom Caucus started the negotiations with a proposal for new rules, a different way to govern that empowers committees and regular members. We proposed that a set of tools could be structured to make trust more verifiable and allow recourse if that trust is ever broken. Following the election, Kevin McCarthy engaged in that negotiation. He led the conference to adopt substantive reforms that will make our majority more effective. Let me list some of them. Andrew Clyde's proposal to restore public access to the Capitol. Lauren Boebert's proposal to reduce the linkage between the NRCC and the steering committee process. Gary Palmer's proposal to cap spending on suspension bills. Ralph Norman's proposal to limit leadership reports and make conference more about engaging all members. Chip Roy's proposal to provide a 5-day notice for suspension votes. Dan Bishop's proposal in privileged resolutions. Scott Perry's proposal for additional conference meetings ahead of key votes. Bob Good's proposal on standalone appropriations bills. Andy Biggs' proposal limiting suspension waivers from committees. Chip Roy's proposal to make co-sponsored amendments in order. Affirm 72-hour publication of bills before calling for a recorded vote. An end to proxy voting. An end to remote participation in committee work by members of Congress. The Holman Rule. An end to the Gephardt Rule. Cut go instead of pay go. An end to unblocked suspension votes. A major reform worked out with Morgan Griffin, what we hope to call the Griffin Rule, on single subject bills subject to germaneness, points of order, and amendment. Diverse viewpoints on every committee. Lastly, a church-style commission was added to the Judiciary Committee focused on the abuses our own big government has unjustly collaborated with big business and big tech to silence, persecute, or even prosecute our fellow citizens. As Thomas Massey pointed out, Elon Musk bought a crime scene. Now that we know and the public knows, the question is, what in the hell are we going to do about it? Well, this select committee answers that question with oversight and leadership by our most effective member, my friend and colleague, the future chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan. We, as Republicans, are a big and diverse conference. The real question goes back to strategy. Can we accept incremental progress? Can we work for a victory, one first down at a time? Or can we only accept the high-risk trick plays? Can we set about the hard work of winning debates with our colleagues, as we have done through this process? Can we take a win every now and then and give hope to the forgotten men and women of America who no longer believe this place, this people's house, cares about them? Or having achieved nearly every concession that we've asked for, including a motion to vacate the chair with one privilege resolution, does it really boil down to this, that 20 or more of my colleagues will never trust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker? I feel at this time we risk a worse outcome if we cannot unite behind the man that has helped us achieve these substantive reforms. Reforms that offer all of us, this whole body, hope for change in this broken status quo. Reforms that our voters have demanded, reforms that we've worked hard together to achieve, and finally, reforms that we risk forfeiting if we do not work together as Republicans to elect the next Speaker of the House. Now's the time for deeds, not words, and I nominate Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House. I humbly ask for your support.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House. Madam Clerk, the lead vote getter in the last 4 tallies, Democrats are united behind a Speaker who will work to codify the right to seek an abortion into law. Like all of us, Hakeem has spoken about consistently the disastrous Dobbs decision. He has spoken time and time again that it is well past time to codify Roe v. Wade into law, and he knows that young women should not grow up in a world with fewer rights than their parents and grandparents. He will ensure that reproductive freedom is enshrined into law. So that's why, Madam Clerk, as chair of the Democratic caucus, I am directed by the caucus to present for election Hakeem Jeffries, representative-elect from New York, as our next speaker.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Colorado rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Congressman Byron Donalds.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I rise today to nominate Byron Donalds, my friend, an amazing man of Florida, an amazing leader, someone who almost even took leadership here in our Republican Party and came very close in doing so, and it was a very brave run that he took. He's a man who understands what tough times look like and has come out of those tough times even stronger, more liberated, and as a leader. Now, we just heard from my respected colleague from Ohio, and he stated some amazing rules that we have been able to get an agreement on, I think. We were threatened pretty heavily in conference, saying if we don't do as we ought, then some of those rules may just go away. But even naming the germaneness rule, which is really fantastic, after Morgan Griffith, well, that was our idea too. My question is, why didn't the supposed leader of the Republican Party present these rules? Why were we fought so hard on these rules? The barrier that still stands in the way of these rules is the structure that prevents us from rolling over. And as my friend from Chip Roy stated, we need the tools and the leadership to do our job correctly. And I believe that Byron Donalds is the man to lead us to that path of getting America on track and uniting the Republican Party. My colleagues and I have worked tirelessly for months to build consensus, to negotiate in good faith, to help unify our party on border security, energy security, debt reduction, term limits, earmarks, among other many common sense policies. But too often our efforts have fallen on deaf ears. Our border is wide open. Inflation is out of control. The Senate just passed $1.7 trillion without our input. So let me be clear. Our job is not to coronate the biggest fundraiser or rubber stamp the status quo or keep on going along to get along. It's to use our votes to elect a speaker who will enable us to get our country back on track. Getting the job done is what we were elected to do, and that starts with having a leader who supports Republican principles, builds consensus, and has a proven track record of success. Byron Donalds is that leader. Republicans, including many moderates, have been impressed by Byron Donalds. They're impressed by his ability to work together. They respect his leadership. We see him as someone who can communicate what we are all wanting to do in this House to Americans, and he represents so much more than just his district in Florida. Many millions of Americans all over this nation praise the work and the leadership of Byron Donalds. So let's work together. Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics to get people to turn against us, even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
Yield back.
Yes, ma'am.
The reading clerk will again call the roll. Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. Armstrong. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. Bice. Biggs. Donalds. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Donalds. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Donalds. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Brackeen. Donalds. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries.
Buchanan, McCarthy, Buck, Bouchon, McCarthy, Baczynski, Jeffries, Burchett, McCarthy, Burgess, McCarthy, Burleson, McCarthy, Bush, Jeffries, Calvert, McCarthy, Kamek, McCarthy, Caraveo, Jeffries, Carbajal, Jeffries, Cardenas, Jeffries, Carey, McCarthy, Carl, McCarthy, Carson, Jeffries, Carter of Georgia, McCarthy, Carter of Louisiana, Jeffries, Carter of Texas, McCarthy, Cartwright, Jeffries, Kassar, Jeffries, Case, Jeffries, Caston, Jeffries, Castor of Florida, Jeffries, Castro of Texas, Jeffries, Chavez DeReamer, McCarthy, Sherferless McCormick, Jeffries, Chu, Jeffries, Cicilline, Jeffries, Ciscomani, McCarthy, Clark of Massachusetts, Jeffries, Clark of New York, Jeffries, Cleaver, Jeffries, Klein, McCarthy, Cloud, Clyburn, Jeffries, Clyde, Donalds,
Come again.
You have to go back. Don't go the second round.
Keep going. He'll come back.
That's what we're going. Cohen, Jeffries, Cole, McCarthy, Collins, McCarthy, Comer, McCarthy, Connolly, Jeffries, Correa, Jeffries, Costa, Jeffries, Courtney, Jeffries, Craig, Jeffries, Crane, Donalds, Crawford, McCarthy, Crenshaw, Crockett, Jeffries, Crow, Jeffries, Cuellar, Jeffries, Curtis, McCarthy, Davids of Kansas, Jeffries. Davidson. Davidson. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingell. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Donalds. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Finstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad. McCarthy. Fischbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Donalds. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. Garbarino. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Donalds. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Donalds. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas.
And still I rise because Black Lives Matter. And I cast my vote proudly for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. Grothman. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Donalds. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Issa. McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee. Jackson Lee. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Camlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. Lolorda. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler. McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Leisure Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Donalds. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McCain. McLean, McCarthy, McClintock, McCarthy, McCullum, Jeffries, McCormick, McCarthy, McGarvey, Jeffries, McGovern, Jeffries, McHenry, McCarthy, Meeks, Jeffries, Menendez, Jeffries, Ming, Jeffries, Muser, McCarthy, Mfume, Jeffries, Miller of Illinois, Donalds, Miller of Ohio, McCarthy, Miller of West Virginia, McCarthy, Miller Meeks, McCarthy, Mills, McCarthy, Molinaro, McCarthy, Molinar, McCarthy, Mooney, McCarthy, Moore of Alabama, McCarthy, Moore of Utah, McCarthy, Moore of Wisconsin, Jeffries, Moran, McCarthy, Morelli, Jeffries, Moskowitz, Jeffries, Moulton, Jeffries, Mervan, Jeffries, Mullen, Jeffries, Murphy, McCarthy, Nadler, Jeffries, Napolitano, Jeffries, Neal, Jeffries, Nagoose, Jeffries, Nels, McCarthy, Newhouse, McCarthy, Nickel, Jeffries, Norcross, Jeffries, Norman, Donalds, None of Iowa, McCarthy, Obernolte, McCarthy, Ocasio-Cortez, Jeffries, Ogles, Donalds, Omar, Jeffries, Owens, McCarthy, Pallone, Jeffries, Palmer, McCarthy, Panetta, Jeffries, Pappas, Jeffries, Pasquarel, Jeffries, Payne, Jeffries, Pelosi, Peltola, Jeffries, Pence, McCarthy, Perez, Jeffries, Perry, Donalds, Peters, Jeffries, Pedersen, Jeffries, Pfluger, McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Presley. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. Rogers of Washington. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Donalds. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. Donalds. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. Salazar. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. Santos. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Schiff. Schneider. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Donalds. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. Sparts. Stansberry. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stube. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew. McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden. McCarthy. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez. Jeffries. Vesey. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg. McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrom.